Well, good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to the rest of the US, from those of you joining us from the middle of the country and to the west. Welcome and thanks for joining us for our State of the Construction Industry webinar today. I'm Traci VanDalsem, the VP of RedTeam Go and Customer Relationships. One of the things I love most about my role here at RedTeam is that I get to spend a lot of time talking with contractors about what's actually happening in their jobs, inside their teams, and what's behind their numbers. So today's conversation that we'll be going through is grounded in reality based on those conversations and hearing what's happening in your areas of the country. We're not just basing it on our news headlines or hype that we hear on other podcasts and in the news, but we hear what's going on directly from you right now. And that means, and we want to know what that means for you as we continue to head further into 2026. We're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to be going through today as we head into our webinar. A little bit of context before we jump in. At RedTeam, everything we do is informed by real contractor experience. Our platforms themselves were built by contractors for contractors. We've had boots on the ground and practical firsthand experience and perspective. And we also get valuable insights from our conversations with all of you. And that shapes how we think about the industry and the challenges that you guys are facing today. So here's what we'll cover in this webinar today. We're going to start with a quick industry overview and then dig into what we're hearing on financials and margins, labor and project risks, and the role technology and best practices plays in managing all of that. We'll wrap up with some key takeaways and leave a little bit of time for Q&A here at the end. We do want to hear from you. So this is going to be a participatory webinar today. So be on the lookout. We're going to be sending you guys some polls that are going to help us to capture some real-time information from you and what's happening around your part of the world. So for some housekeeping items, you'll notice on your Zoom toolbar a Q&A box for you to submit questions as we go throughout the webinar this morning. So please feel free to do that. We may wait till the end of our webinar today to come back and address some of those questions that you're submitting and kind of feel where they fit best in our conversation that we've had. And we'll head back up and start talking about that a little bit at the end. But the poll questions are going to help us to get some information as we're going through our discussion this morning. So we'll do our best to fit in those questions where they fit in. And if we don't get to tackle your questions live, we'll make sure to follow up with you after our webinar concludes today and make sure that you're getting the answers and the insights that you're hoping for today. As we get started, let's talk about the big picture. We'll kick things off with a couple of poll questions, so feel free to answer these as they pop up. They are entirely voluntary, but they do help us understand who we have in the audience as we move through the conversation this morning. So our first two questions are going to be, which best describes your current backlog for 2026 and beyond? We want to know what the outlook looks like for you, where you're at, and where are you feeling the most market pressure right now? So please submit the answers to those and we'll take a look. We're going to get some percentages here in just a moment. But from an industry standpoint, the first thing to understand right now is that conditions are uneven. We're seeing that across several sectors like infrastructure, healthcare, power, data centers are a big thing that we're hearing about. Those are remaining strong, while some other areas are a little bit more competitive. But what's consistent across the board is expectations. We know owners want certainty earlier. They want tighter schedules, cleaner costs, fewer surprises. Those are things we hear on a regular basis. And a lot of that risk continues to be pushed downstream to contractors, general contractors, as well as our trade contractors. Okay, for the question of which describes your current backlog for 2026, majority of everyone in the audience today says solid but competitive. That's encouraging. A little higher of a percentage than I love to see is that it's uncertain and uneven, but we know that that's a current reality as well. Where are you feeling the most market pressure right now? The highest percentage coming back from you guys is pricing competition, and then managing owner expectations and risks. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for taking time to answer those questions. What we are seeing too is that even when we as contractors have a backlog of projects that looks healthy, we're still feeling that pressure as well. That pressure sets the tone of how projects are bid, how they're staffed, how they're managed. And that pressure shows up really clearly when we're talking about margins and financial performance. So I am going to have Katie post up another poll for us really quick as we talk about this section of our conversation this morning. And how have your project margins over the past 12 months been? And then what's the biggest impact on margin erosion for you guys today? Let's take just a second and answer those questions as well. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that we see, in talking about backlog is that backlog equals health, and that's not necessarily the case. Across the industry, margins are tight. Contractors are operating in the low single digits, and how that translates is that one simple mistake on a project could swallow up profit, and it leaves us little room for error as we're managing the project. And those hiccups sometimes are real realities, and it's a big risk for us. Yet at the same time, financial costs and overhead mean that cash flow and timing is just as important as profit. We tend to many times see surprises when we're talking about work in progress. We could have inaccurate or delayed work in progress reporting, which is common. And one of the biggest reasons that contractors discover margin erosion on a project very late in the project. We are seeing that contractors who have the best performance have clear project level views of their financial information. They know where they stand and where they're exposed while there's still time to act. So that just means, like, as we're building in to our owner billing processes, we've got to make sure that we have a good handle on the expenses that we're having as the project moves along, and that those expenses that we're incurring are getting pulled into the progress billing in a very timely manner. Okay, let's talk through some quick poll results. How have your project margins changed over the last 12 months? It's tied between they've improved and they've stayed the same. A little less for tightened slightly and significantly. So that's great. I'm glad that they've improved and that they're staying the same. Of course, we want to see that improved trajectory continue to go up and to the right, but that's good that they're either improving or they're holding, which is awesome. What's the biggest impact on margin erosion for you guys today? Material price volatility. And incomplete or rushed estimates. Yes, right. Tariffs are real. Getting materials is more difficult and sometimes delayed. Price fluctuations are happening all the time, unfortunately. But thank you again for filling out those polls for us. Financial pressure seems to get amplified when we are talking through the labor challenges as well. We've got the material challenges. We also have some labor challenges. So let's talk a little bit for you guys on labor and project forecasts. What is your biggest risk right now? And how confident are you in your project forecasts midway through your projects? Keep bumping into labor as an item that is bringing our contractors a lot of risk. It's one of the most consistent challenges that we hear about. We have been hearing about it for several years, and it's likely something that's going to continue into our foreseeable future. The reality is that we have expert knowledge retiring, and we're finding it hard to replace their expertise and their knowledge in those senior level positions, whether they're in the field or whether they're inside the office. I'd say that about nine out of 10 contractors that I speak with regularly have all reported difficulty finding skilled labor. And our superintendents that are nearing retirement and hold a lot of knowledge just from the amount of experience they have in between their temples is so very valuable. And the need for that kind of expertise on a job site hasn't changed. That demand is always going to be high. We know that the supervision in the field and the boots on the ground is one of the most important roles that we have on the project. And so when we're talking about not having those roles present or people with that much experience and knowledge with their boots on the ground, that opens us up for a bit of risk. And that shortage also creates experience gaps and knowledge gaps. And when our teams are younger and we're stretched thinner, we don't have the ability to rely on that tribal knowledge that we have in the past, or have the ability to rely on a few key individuals to carry projects any longer. So I think we're seeing that that's where systems and consistency become very critical. We see risk showing up earlier in projects around scope clarity, schedule alignment, and communication breakdowns. And those tend to compound as a project continues if they're not addressed very quickly. Sometimes when we get into the beginning stages of a project, we get confident, we're going through the estimate, we know what we have built into the project, we know the scope of work like the back of our hand, but as the project continues, what felt manageable in those early stages of a project can become a major problem later on if they weren't documented properly from the start. So we see a lot of that coming into play, particularly around our staffing and those critical roles that are nearing retirement. And we've got to get people the information that they need so that we can continue to move forward and manage projects efficiently. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these poll results. What is the biggest risk right now? You guys are confirming what we're hearing. The biggest challenge is labor availability, and then tied it was completely tied on the others. Labor productivity, scope gaps at handoff, and subcontractor performance were all tied with the same percentage there from you guys. How confident are you in your project forecast mid-project? The majority of you said somewhat confident. The next high percentage is very confident, which tells me that you guys are using some technology. Okay, awesome. Well, let's transition and talk a little bit about technology. The conversation of technology and best practices really matters. So we want to send you another poll and talk a little bit about technology with you and hear what you guys are using. So how would you describe your current project management tech stack? And where would better technology help you the most right now? We have ulterior motives to asking you these poll questions. We have a new product manager on board here at RedTeam. He is begging for this information from you. I would say, while we're waiting for your polls to come in here, the technology conversation has shifted. Contractors aren't looking for more tools. We have a plethora of more tools. You're looking for better outcomes in using those tools. We have more than half of our firms are actively investing in technology, but we're finding that they're far more selective about what they adopt. We're hearing they want ease of use. If it's not simple, teams are very slow to adopt. We know that. We see that lived out every day here at RedTeam. And if a system doesn't reflect the reality or makes the work harder, again, you're going to have low adoption and people aren't going to use it. And the inconsistency and the way that process is managed in your company is really going to have an effect there. So adoption is everything. I have spent the majority of my career in implementation and onboarding new clients and in using the software. And so that is something that we see lived out in our companies that buy technology, is that the adoption of people in your company that can get into the technology and use it regularly and create that sense of consistency within your business are what makes the biggest difference. And if a system doesn't reflect the reality and makes the work harder, people are not going to use it, and it's going to be very slow to adopt. But contractors in general are seeing real value, especially when you're using integrated platforms that connect project execution, like our platforms here at RedTeam, with financial performance. That alignment improves accountability and reduces surprises. And so technology tends to work better in our circles where the good habits and the financial integrations are reflected in how people are doing their work. So let's see where you guys are in your tech stack. So how would you describe your current project management tech stack? The majority of you say partially connected. Let's see. 2 of you have said you fully integrated. 2, mostly spreadsheets and emails still. We can help you with that. And then where would better technology help you right now? It is tied between financial visibility and forecasting and communication and documentation. So yeah, that's exactly what we see in our conversations with our clients. So thank you for confirming that for us as well. Those are big challenges, the financial visibility and being able to see where we are in real time with actuals, how much against the budget. It makes all the difference when we're project managing and moving through the project life cycle. And then the communication and documentation, right? Like we're seeing that we need to be transparent. We need to be communicating with the full project team. And when we don't have the right tools that can keep all of the documentation in one single source of truth is where that opens us up to a little bit bigger risk. So you guys hit it spot on. That's what we're seeing, and that's what we aim to solve here also at RedTeam. So thank you so much. This leads to some really clear patterns. You guys are proving that out as we navigate the uncertainty. When we look at contractors that are performing well today, the patterns are consistent. We find that people are investing in visibility. You're standardizing how projects are managed, viewing data regularly and acting on it. You have that data a little bit earlier when you're using some technology tools. The competitive advantage of heading into 2026 isn't guessing what's coming next. It's seeing clearly enough to respond quickly. It's no doubt that the risk is increasing, but it can be manageable if you're using tools. Visibility creates confidence across all teams, and preparation consistently beats prediction. With that said, I do want to take a little bit of time. Let's open it up for questions and talk through a little bit of what you're dealing with right now. If you guys have any questions about project risk, financial visibility, labor challenges, basically anything that we've talked about today, I'd love to hear what your questions are and address those a little bit. If you guys have some questions, how are our Q&A looking? Yep, let's go ahead. It does look like there's a poll up. Go ahead and submit that poll here. We've got one last one for you. In talking through your financial management, getting real-time visibility into your project budget versus actuals, I'd be curious to know what kind of tools you guys are using for that today. Are you guys using your project management software for that information? Are you guys using your accounting software for that solution? And maybe tell me a little bit about what accounting software you guys are using. I'd be curious to know that. If you guys are newer to technology, if we can share any additional information with you about RedTeam, about our products and how we solve a lot of these industry challenges that we're seeing, from setting up budgets, sending out bid invitations and getting good responses back from your subcontractors and putting together project budgets and getting to contract, making sure that the scope of work is put into a project and that scope of work is transferring over into all aspects of project management. Those are really what our tools are built for, as well as the financial controls of managing subcontractors, change management, and the billing processes for you to give you some real-time views on where you are financially within the project, so that you guys can make decisions earlier and faster. So thank you so much for participating and answering our poll questions today. It came back on your last poll with what is your top priority for 2026, that protecting your margins is the most important thing. That is where RedTeam shines, in helping you manage your financials. So if there's any questions that you have, if you're new to RedTeam, if you are not a client of ours at RedTeam, we would love to show you more. But if you are an existing client and you have any questions about what you're using within the software and you're hitting any roadblocks, we'd love to smooth those out for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can reach us at concierge@redteam.com if you're having any challenges, or if you know your direct client success manager's email, feel free to reach out to them. That is what they're here for, to come alongside you and manage your account. as you're with us here at Red Team. And so if they can help to set up any meetings to work with an implementation specialist and help you overcome any roadblocks that you're experiencing getting your projects up and running, we'd love to help you with that as well. So we appreciate you taking time out of your day today to talk to us a little bit about what our headwinds are heading into 2026 and how technology can help overcome some of those hardships that we're experiencing. We can't solve the labor crisis for you, but we can help save you time and effort in other areas. And so we're here to help you do that. But I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll see you on the next webinar.